So this is a Pokemon video. And I really don't know much about Pokemon. I know a little bit about the old cartoon. A little bit. But honestly, I know very little about Pokemon. We'll check it out and see how it goes. So let's check this out.
The legend, the lion, the Larry. The man who slapped players with a face full of reality, dropped a bombshell on unsuspecting dreamers, and taught us hard-hitting lessons about life. Let's talk about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's most beloved character. Hey Charles, it's everyone. How are you today? Pokemon Scarlet and Violet was not only a fresh, if flawed, and somewhat freaky open world experience, but a story of tragedy, friendship, and the importance of discovering life's treasures. Of course, the story wouldn't be what it is without a cast of characters worth talking about. From memorable but misunderstood Nimona to mysterious and criminal Cassiopeia, to everything in my life went wrong and everyone I love is dead or dying Arvin, to Larry. Yes, Larry. Larry of Medali City Gym and the Elite Four is an overworked, disgruntled salaryman who has seemingly no place in Pokemon's cast of wacky anime dropouts because he is literally just your typical depressed office worker. However, as it turns out, Larry might actually be Gen 9's most cherished character, finishing first in various popularity polls, making waves among adult fans, and earning all kinds of artistic tributes to his glory.
Okay, I'm going to make a prediction here. It's because he's the most relatable. I'm guessing that Larry's so popular because he's just so relatable. He is like an everyman. That's why he's like the overworked salaryman kind of archetype. So he's just relatable to the average person. I'm guessing that's probably why he's just so popular, because everybody's just like, yeah, I understand Larry.
There is no doubt that the hilariously out-of-place salaryman is loved by the Pokemon community. And not only does Larry's mundane existence contrast comedically with everyone and everything else happening in Paldea, but he also dropped some real bombshells on anyone who—
See, he's not balding and he doesn't have the gut though. If we're talking about Leisure Suit Larry, he's gotta be balding, and he's gotta have that gut. Otherwise it just doesn't work. And plus he's gotta have a huge honkin' nose. Yeah, that's a staple of Leisure. That's a staple of Leisure Suit Larry, is the honkin' nose.
Who saw past the jokes. Indeed, Larry's story contains 3 of the most important takeaways in the game, and the plan today is to dig up Larry's lessons for life that will change the way you see the world. So, let's jump right in. But first, don't forget to check out my classes about making day-to-day life more fulfilling, purging your inner darkness, and smashing out home runs in the game of life with a free trial over on Skillshare. Skillshare is known for its photography, film, and drawing classes, but it's also become a training ground for creatives who want to reinvent their goals, their careers, and themselves. I've personally used Skillshare for years to boost my creative abilities, and for anyone looking at improving their video making skills for YouTube, or even just for the fun of it,
yeah,
be sure
I've
to use
never
my
really
free Skillshare
been
trial link in the video description to take Enrico Luzzi's DIY video production for content creators from setting up to
the turn-based
editing,
combat
as it covers the
stuff
fundamentals
ones,
of video making and
I
will have you
couldn't really
cranking out
get
videos in
into
just
them.
over an hour. Whether you're into pixel art,
Hey,
game
it's just
development,
it
manga
just
drawing,
wasn't a style that I
YouTubing,
could really
study
get into,
techniques, or something
unfortunately.
else, you're sure to find a
But,
class on Skillshare.
you know,
and
it
you
is
can
what it
enjoy
is.
unlimited classes from the Skillshare library for free, since the first 1,000 people to use my link will get a 1-month free trial of
Larry
Skillshare.
isn't the
So
only
snag the
one who
trial,
tried
best
and
of luck
bang all the
skilling up. Hope to
Pokemon.
see you over
Have
on
you seen the
Skillshare.
internet
And now,
lately?
let's get back to today's chat.
There's a whole thing about
We first meet Silver Fox Larry at the Treasure Eatery in Medali. After completing the gym test challenge, a server asks if we are ready to face the exceptional everyman himself, and if we rise to the challenge, so does the exceptional everyman, begrudgingly getting up from his Zaru Soba to introduce himself as the gym leader assigned to Medali Gym, Larry. A Pokemon gym leader who does not look like a Pokemon gym leader at all. He does not have neon-colored hair, his outfit isn't a calculated attack on boyhood. He is not bouncing around like he just inhaled a pound of Cocoa Puffs. No, he just looks like Uncle Randy on the way home from a—
Yeah, chat. Cocoa Puffs. I'm sure that's what he meant. Cocoa Puffs.
a long day selling vacuum cleaners to senior citizens at the mall. To dig a bit deeper, not only is Larry a typical everyday man name in Western culture, but also a reference to the word salaryman.
Hang
Larry,
on.
a typical everyday man name in Western.
Right, so aside from his hair and tie foreshadowing his team and strangely squared irises, he's as normal, quote unquote, as they get. I don't know why you can't see this. Something's going on with my aspect ratio again. Son of a bitch. Hang on. Damn it. Hang on a second. There we go. I don't know why my aspect ratio got thrown off like that. Okay.
Western culture, but also a reference to the word salaryman, the Japanese term for salaried white-collar workers. In Japan, the term is virtually synonymous with the image of suited, tired businessmen crowding.
And, hang on.
A reference to the word salaryman, the Japanese term for salaried white.
Hey, chat. Where have you seen this used frequently? Yeah, probably Alistair, probably. There's a reason why I'm blushing right now. Just thought I'd put that out there. Ow.
White-collar workers. In Japan, the term is virtually synonymous with the image of suited, tired businessmen crowding the trains on the way home from work after a solid night of overtime. And Larry certainly fits the part. Basically,
No,
the man
Moros,
just
that's
wants
not
to
what
go
I'm thinking
home,
of.
so he shuts down the small talk pretty quickly by remarking that his boss will dock his pay if he spends too much time chatting, encourages us to get this battle over with, and we hit the pitch. It's no surprise that the everyday normal man specializes in everyday normal Pokémon, a sleepy koala, an evolution that is barely an evolution, and an ace that is actually pretty interesting. On one hand, Larry's Staraptor is just another gag, but it's also a strong counter to the fighting type Pokémon that could sweep Larry's team. In this battle, Staraptor knows two moves, Facade and Aerial Ace. And while the other...
Oh, hang on. I'm not familiar with these moves, so I gotta read it.
In this battle, Staraptor knows two moves, Facade.
So, facade. This move's power is doubled if the user is poisoned, burned, or paralyzed. Okay.
And Aerial Ace.
Aerial Ace, the user confounds the target with speed, then slashes. This attack never misses. Oh, unblockable attack. Interesting.
And while the other gym leaders terrestrialize their aces into unexpected typings, Larry does something so expected that it is unexpected by doubling down on Staraptor's normal typing to take players for a ride on the double stab pain train. Trainers leaning too heavily on their grass cat or ghost monkey
Moros.
got cratered by Aerial Ace, and underleveled status manipulation monsters were left in the rubble by Facade. Moreover, Facade is particularly significant to Larry, who labels it the signature move of working adults in the Japanese version and drops a bombshell of a one-liner about it in the English version. I think it's time to show you that real life isn't all just being true to yourself. In the wake of Larry's weighty words, the battle heats up, but in the end, we are better than average, and by average, I mean Larry. After his defeat, Larry treats us to dinner and gives us TM25. And with that, he heads back to work, leaving us to chuckle about his grim outlook on adult life. But beneath the gag, Larry's words were packed with wisdom. Enter Larry's lesson for better living, number 1. Be true to more than just yourself.
Okay.
Unfortunately, part of the philosophy behind the otherwise wonderful self-fulfillment movement of recent years is often misconstrued as something like be true to yourself by doing whatever you want, whenever you want, and expect that somehow life will just work out for you. This is not an ideal approach to living, because...
And you know what? This real life isn't all just being true to yourself. Is 100% true. It is. Real life, the reality is you can be true to yourself all you want. And granted, this is a kid's game, so it didn't really do the real truth of Bob real life, which is Real life isn't fair. Real life does not care about fairness. Real life does not care about what you think you deserve or what you should be expected to get. Reality does not fucking care. Because reality has no feelings. Reality simply exists. And it doesn't care about your moralities. It doesn't care about what you think you are deserved. It doesn't care how hard you worked. It doesn't care about any of that. It simply exists and you are existing within it. So, people that say, I've worked hard for 30 years, I deserve to be able to live a good life and not have to try and scrape by for my entire existence. Real life or reality does not care. It does not care one bit. And that's kind of something that I hold on to. It's why I do not take it for granted that I should get a good deal because I put my head down and I work my ass off at my job, or if I'm kind to people, I should expect to have great things bestowed upon me. I don't expect any of that because that's not how reality works. Reality works is you just have to, okay, Ishua, have a good night. Reality is just, it is what it is, and you shouldn't have, those kind of expectations simply don't work. They don't. You have to try and make it happen, but it's never a guarantee that it's going to happen. You could work your ass off at a job for 30 years, and when you finally retire, it doesn't necessarily mean things are going to get better. You are not owed a good life simply because you worked your ass off for 30 years. Okay, Godzilla, have a good night. Thanks for coming by. So, granted, I'm getting a hell of a lot deeper and darker than what Larry is. I am. Larry, this is a kid's game. It's a game for kids. But the nugget of that fact is in there with this. And Balloon Boy and Voilipia, thank you for the follows. Welcome.
Because what you want is not always what you need, or what others need from you. Not to mention that yourself is something that shifts shape as easily as a handful of silly putty, ultimately stranding those who are only true to themselves without the strong identity, values, or purpose necessary to power through life's chaos. As such, it's little wonder that so many people who should normally be happy end up sinking beneath the sands. But nested in Larry's words is a way out of the quagmire, that instead of merely being true to yourself, you should be true to something bigger. To be precise, be true to powerful principles and be true to the world. Firstly, although you are where you are right now, where exactly that is isn't always clear, but principles are the lanterns that light the way forward.
Hang on. Let's see if we can actually see these. Okay, provide a good life to my family, stay healthy and fit, don't ruminate, be thankful for what I have. That's an important one. That's a pretty important one. Don't ruminate. Be thankful for what you have. Never stop self-development. Leave people feeling happier than before we met. Be the friend who keeps the group together. I'm not so sure about this last one. I'm going to have to disagree with this last one. You should not have to put it upon yourself to be the one individual who keeps your friend group together. Friends should be together because all of you want to be together because you're all friends. The responsibility of being the glue to keep that friend group together. Now you're putting pressure upon yourself or another individual where they're no longer a friend, they're an employee of the friend group. It should be the be that good friend who can help, be that person who can help your friends when they need, that can help friends if they need help. Not be the glue that keeps everyone together. That's putting too much on one person. And it ends up becoming, resentment, you can turn resentful. And yeah, and like you guys are saying, if there's a friend within your friend group that becomes toxic and threatens the friendship at large, yeah, sometimes you have to cut people out. That's the way it works. Friends forever is a very pretty concept, but it's not always reality. So the rest of it, I will agree with. Providing good life, stay healthy and fit, don't ruminate on the past, be thankful for what you have now, keep developing self, leave people feeling happier than before we met. That one is a little bit into the last one also. It's putting a little bit of pressure on yourself to leave people feeling happier than before they met, because you're not going to make some people you just can't make happy. So this one, I'm not feeling great about either. Putting the burden on yourself to make other people feel happy, it's a bit of a burden. I don't 100% disagree with it. If trying to make other people happy makes you happy, I'm all for it. If making other people happy makes you happy, great. Don't feel obligated, especially if someone is an asshole. You should not feel obligated to make that person happy. Because when that person just, basically takes all that you're trying to impart onto them and spits in your face, it's only going to make you feel down. It's only going to drag you down. And you should not be drugged down by an asshole simply because you were trying to make them happy. If you know, okay, I'm not going to be able to do anything to make this person happy, they are just either in a dark place, but they're furious and there's no doing it. Yeah, don't do it at the expense of yourself. I am that way I like to make people happy. It's why I stream. I am streaming because I want people that come to my stream to be happy and to have fun. It is why I stream in the first place. It's why I wanted to do it. If someone comes into my stream and they're furious and what I say, it's getting spat back in my face, I'm not going to try very hard to make that person happy or anything of that nature. Because I'm not going to drag my own mental state, my own emotional state down on a futile effort to make someone else happy. I've learned that lesson. I've done it in the past. I've tried to do it in the past, and it's only drugged me down. I've learned my lesson on that, and I'm not going to do it. I will make an effort, but if that effort quickly is spat back in my face, fine, you're on your own. That's just how life works. So, yeah, these bottom two things here, I don't necessarily agree with. Thank you, Sadistic. I mean, you guys, we rage about stuff. We get angry about stuff. But it's kind of a mutual thing. Thank you, Sadistic. Thank you for the 5 gifted. We went way off track here. Let us continue. And Stoic, I am thrilled that my streams and my YouTube videos make people happy, that I can help people, my streams and videos can help people through some potential dark times. That is an honor that I cannot express. I feel a sense of being of honor that I'm able to do that. that I don't know I've ever experienced in my life. And I'm oh so grateful to be able to do that for people. And so we're gonna continue doing that by doing continuing to react.
Forward. So build powerful principles and follow them. Secondly, real life isn't all just being true to yourself, because yourself, the unstable concept that it is just one aspect of real life. Families, communities, companies, societies, physics, the bodies we inhabit, the natural world, these external elements and others are as much a part of us as we are a part of them. And if we don't pursue harmony with these elements, we are quickly devoured. Unfortunately, this does mean doing a lot of things that we don't necessarily want to do, and this includes wearing a series of facades. Essentially, Larry's facade metaphor is referencing the honne tatemai concept that is key to survival in the environment that Pokemon was created in, Japan. Japan places a high value on being true to more than just yourself, and this is evident in the division between honne and tatemai. Honne describes one's true feelings and desires, whereas tatemai describes the behaviors and beliefs that one actually exhibits in public. In other words, the facade. People will conceal their honne when it isn't aligned with social expectations, putting up a facade and even telling blatant lies to hide their true feelings. Honestly, as a foreigner, it can
and really cold. Ruspina, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Kyler. I'm sorry, you have me at a loss. I don't know what that is. Sorry.
can be difficult to adapt to this style of communication. We need to try hard to read the air instead of what is literally being said, and it can often feel like people are being dishonest. But the honne tatemai
I don't know
is
Squid
prevalent
Billies,
in Japan because the culture prioritizes the whole over the individual. In other words, honne tatemai exists to avoid conflict and to minimize social discord. And it's partially why Japan is such a safe, principled, and wonderful
Darkwing Duck, first of all, great name. If you have a video that you want to suggest that I do a react to, you can do that in the video suggestions channel in my Discord. There's a link in the Twitch channel information below. Let's see, it sounds like an awful way to. Well, I mean, Stonekiller, you're not wrong, and I've heard a very similar thing. Like, one of the biggest criticisms I've heard in terms of Japanese culture is it doesn't seem true to yourself. There's far more facade than there is honesty. That appearances are far more important than how someone actually thinks or feels. That is a criticism I've heard in regards to Japanese culture in the past. And I think that may be why anime is so popular, because in anime, they don't have to do that. They can take the concept of Japanese society and flip it on its head, where the true to yourself thing and a more idealized representation of Japanese culture can be present, where you can be honest. You don't have to lie and present this facade. You can show your true colors. And I expect that's probably a big reason why Japanese anime is so incredibly popular, is because they're able to shake off those shackles and shake off that facade. So that's one reason why there's the criticism of Japan, and why animated fiction is it is so popular, and especially in Japan. And yeah, Potato, you're right. Chinese and Korean culture. I think I want to say that it may be an Asiatic, like an Asian, Asian Orient area culture. I think there's a lot of it in the Orient Asian areas, and I use that to specify because obviously there's more than just there's obviously Russia and India in Asia, which is why I specified the Orient parts of Asia. Uh, it's yeah, it's very it is a very cultural yeah, I mean it could span like to Vietnam and to Guam, Malaysia. It's like I think this is like an Orient culture. It's just more prevalent in some countries than others. It's more I'd say it's more prevalent in the more developed countries, such as China, such as Japan, such as Korea, because they are far more economically developed. So you're going to see it much more prominently because I guess maybe they consider themselves more civilized, so to speak. Yeah, it could go as far west as Iraq, but I think it may be in a slightly different way. Uh, what we're seeing here, I do think is more true to the Orient part of Asia. So, yeah, undoubtedly you saw in Afghanistan, like it's there. Hell, we see it in America for God's sake. We see that in the United States. We see it in Canada. We see it in all Western, modern civilizations. It's just the degree and the flavor that we see in like China and Japan and Korea. So it's like different flavors and intensities. Which I think is the point that I'm trying to make. Exactly, Taurus. To an extent, it is a part of every culture, and every culture has their own flavor and intensity of it. And so this is the Orient flavor and intensity that we're discussing here today.
Wonderful place to live. That said, we can benefit from this mentality anywhere, as when we are not true to our own whims, but instead to the world, we tend to create more value for others, take better care of our families, stand a little closer to the toilet, etc., etc. If you are true to the world and true to powerful principles, you are likely to push off towards a more fulfilling life, even if that life still has its rough patches.
Wait a minute, what did that say?
More fulfilling life, even if that life still has its rough patches.
Okay, I'm kind of blocky. It took 3 bloody hours to shine the toilets at the restaurant after St. Patty's Day. Ew. Also, at least in Seoul, Korea, if you get old, at least as a man, and you aren't a politician, bureaucrat, armed forces, or business board member, top level, you have like 3 jobs to choose from: taxi driver, truck driver, or janitor, and that's it. Cryptic, I've known people who spent time in Korea in the military, and yeah, that sounds about right. And I think for women, it's either like for women in that position, I think it's also like shop owner or food vendor. Like on the female side of things, from what I heard, it was like they were either like a shopkeep or they were like a small food vendor or something, or I don't know. From what I heard, like there was a lot of in like Tongdeshan. Yeah, well, and that's what I was referring to, cryptic shop owner, street vendor. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Or like farmers, like women that when like they're in like the open like the wet markets where they have their wares like on a blanket to sell. But I guess that would qualify as like street vendor. So yeah, it sounds about right.
We soon learn more about the man beneath the mask after crossing paths, this time in the most unexpected of places. Upon earning Paldea's 8 gym badges, we head to the Pokémon League to defeat the Elite Four, the top champion, and become a champion ourselves. And after decimating Lin and Chaozu, we can only wonder what kind of oddball the 3rd Elite Four member could be. And then he enters the room. Hello there, it's me, Larry. So, you made it this far. I serve as a member of the Elite Four too. Yes. Unfortunately for me. Larry, players must...
Well, how? The dialogue just sounded so salaryman. I serve for the Elite Four too, unfortunately. Like, yeah, he does sound just so completely salaryman. Yeah, the poor guy is overworked. He is so overworked, and it's like the typical salaryman. The bosses are gonna keep piling the shit on him. Poor Larry.
Of thought, switching Lucario, Annihilate, or Quaquaval into the starting spot to take the broken old man over the knee, only for Larry to drop another bombshell just before the battle begins. At my gym, I use normal type Pokemon since I feel they have a lot in common with me, but, well, the boss told me to use a different type here, so if you have any complaints, please take them up with La Primera. Anyway, time to get to work. And with that, Larry's birds of prey swoop in for the kill. Tropius, Oricodio, Altaria, Flamigo, Staraptor. Larry's team is just 5 ice beams away from disaster at any given moment, but the battle could present difficulties to underleveled or unbalanced teams or any team from that other gym in Saffron City. If baited into leading with a fighting type, players would have been in trouble coming out the gates, and Larry's Staraptor and Flamigo are equipped with fighting type moves themselves to edge out ice and rock type Pokemon that might otherwise run through Larry's lineup. Also, Larry pivots from expectations yet again by terastallizing his flying Terra-type Flamigo instead of Staraptor to double down on flyer power. As the battle's de facto ace, Flamigo can sweep with double stab Brave Bird and hit quite a few weaknesses with an all-physical moveset that leverages its high attack stat. But of course, this isn't Pokemon Colosseum, it is vanilla Pokemon. So not even 5 birds, 5 hours of sleep, and 35 cups of coffee are enough for Larry to get in the way of a player with a reasonably leveled, balanced team, or a single level 100 Golden Go and an A button. And that is the end of Larry. Except that it's not. Because in the post-game, top champion Gita has us complete a gym inspection that involves rematching each of Paldea's gym leaders. And that means more Larry. After hoofing it to Mandali, we find a disgruntled Larry who wants to knock the task off his list ASAP, so we hurry to the treasure eatery to get the deed done. White Collar Eeyore voices his doubts that he'll leave much of an impression on us, but actually, he does leave quite the impression.
Let's say, I'll be facing you in my role as gym leader, so I'm going to use my regular team. They all belong to the normal type, normal as in plain, average, unremarkable, run-of-the-mill.
With the following words.
I'm pretty fond of them, you know. They suit me perfectly. I'm about as ordinary as you can get. Oh, poor Larry. Larry just needs a hug. Someone give poor Larry a hug. This poor guy.
People, Pokemon, there's no need to overcomplicate things. Nowadays, people only seem to want a shock factor, something weird, something bizarre. When all's said and done, simplicity is strongest. As Larry suggests, nowadays people are obsessed with the idea of the anti-normal, and largely due to algorithms promoting the visibility.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, like all you guys in chat saying, this hits so close to home, he's just like me, for real. Like, this is why Larry is... Yeah, exactly. This is why Larry is probably the most popular trainer. It's probably why he's voted so high as a character, as being popular, because for so many players, it's like looking in a fucking mirror. Whereas everyone else is bombastic and brightly colored and sexy and what have you. Larry is just Larry. And it's almost like it's a representation of the player. And they identify with him. So, because he's so relatable, that's why everybody loves Larry. And plus, I'm sure a lot of people just want to give Larry a hug. I'm sure everybody just wants to give Larry a big ol' hug and tell him it's gonna be okay. I wish we could give Larry a hug.
Of human behaviors in direct proportion to how excessively over the top they are, we are continually battered by the goofiest ideas. The insanity is amplified the more we surrender to whatever the algorithm man crams into our mouths to keep us chewing. And at this point, many people no longer enjoy the simple wonders of everyday life, because those experiences aren't as exciting or luxurious or above average as the lifestyle fantasies and identity extremes presented by social media. They have become slaves to the shock factor. factor. Ironically, this is why a character like Larry stands out so much, because he is absolutely normal in an absolutely insane world. It's not that we should all strive to be a Larry, and being different can be really, really good. But Larry does have a great point, bringing us to Larry's life lesson number 2, resist the shock factor.
Yeah?
Larry's comments about the extreme versus the normal are worth contemplating in a modern era that is captivated by the shock factor, wherein many people are slapped with crippling cognitive dissonance when the inflated expectations perpetuated by social media clash with reality. And as algorithms continue to favor the shock factor based on what triggers the strongest responses from our overactive monkey brains, we need to be increasingly focused on the things that keep us grounded, or else we'll get swept away in a whirlwind of information overload, social comparisons, echo chambers, and plain old-fashioned stupidity.
And this brings up something I believe in, which is there's always so much talk about, you have to be special. There's always a lot of talk about wanting or needing to be special. And on its face, that's not a terrible notion to have. It's completely understandable that you would want to be thought of as special or unique. I think that's kind of human nature. It sets you apart from the social pack and gives you a form of social recognition. So on its face, there's nothing wrong with it. However, the problem comes in when you fixate or focus so much on trying to be unique or trying to be special that you end up losing that part of you that is unique or special in the first place. Because your uniqueness and your specialness as an individual does not come from any focused intent. If you deliberately try to be special, you're not actually being special. You're doing exactly the same thing that thousands or millions of other people are trying to do, such as with all these viral challenges. Doing all these viral challenges does not make you special. What makes you special, what makes you unique, is the things that you say or the things that you do that you don't think about. That's what makes you special and unique. What it is the things you think, with the way your thought processes or the actions that you take, that you do so without trying. And that is what makes you special. And this also, goes into like physical features too. I won't discount like physical features as well. But it's when it's done naturally. That's what naturally, without thinking about, without trying to do it. That is where you are unique or special. So the lesson, the lesson, so to speak, I guess, is don't worry about being special or unique. Because inherently, in some way, you are to those who know you. And they will see that, because the specialness is not something you will see yourself. We're talking about something where you are not going to see it. You are not going to recognize it because you're just doing it naturally. It feels totally normal for you, which is why people are always usually surprised when someone points out how unusual or special or unique or great something is, and you're just going, it's just what I normally do. You don't recognize it as being anything other than normal. But that is what makes it special. So that what I'm trying to say is, like, when you actively try to be special, you lose that. You lose that. Just be yourself, and people that matter will recognize that part of you that is unique and that is special. And just don't force it. And that's it. It's how it's how I feel about it. Whether or not it makes sense or it, is a reasonable ideal, I don't know, but that's how I feel about it. And again, I'm veering way off topic, but I just kind of wanted to say that. That's all.
For this generation in particular, it is becoming very important to be able to separate the insanity of the internet from the relative simplicity of reality, such that one can actually navigate life. Pursuing simplicity is one way of regaining clarity in an overly complicated world. As King Larry says, simplicity is strongest. He isn't living on the wild side like a nihilistic pro snowboarder or a digital nomad wearing a costume made out of Fruit Loops, but simply clocking in, clocking out, and staying grounded to the simple life. And there is something respectable to that approach, as it certainly is advantageous to simplify complexity.
Let's see, pruning your apps, turning off notifications, and cutting smartphone screen time to less than 10 minutes per day equals a quick, easy, massive win. There is some truth to that. I'm certainly not going to tell I'm not going to preach to someone about smartphone usage or cutting down the amount of apps used. Use your smart devices however you want. I'm not going to say anything about that one way or the other.
Wherever possible. Of course, in Larry's case, life is simple as far as we know, but we can see that his job is very demanding, and it's actually his jaded office worker persona that is largely responsible for his popularity. So let's talk about it. If you are a tired adult working hard day in and day out to put bread and gushers on the table, then you've probably felt like Larry at some point or another. Because the reality of living is that living is tough. That is the norm, not the anomaly. Not to mention that living can be particularly exhausting when you're overworked. And being overworked is the standard in Pokemon's birthplace, Japan, where working overtime is built into the culture. And it is being a punching bag for the daily grind that makes Larry so relatable to older audiences. But even so...
Yeah, I mean, we talk about corpo culture, like how horrible it is in the West. It's like 100 times worse in Japan. Like, corporate culture is 100 times worse in Japan than it is in the West. Because it's like, corporate culture is integrated into Japan's culture. If you are not overworked to death in Japan, socially speaking, you're doing it wrong. So... yeah, I mean, it scares the shit out of me, too. It does. It's like I one day would maybe like to visit Japan just to visit it. I certainly wouldn't want to live there. From everything I've heard, I certainly would not want to live there based on the work culture over there. Not at all.
So I think there is a very optimistic undertone to his story, not just because we have managed to wring a couple good rules for living out of his one-liners, but because Paldea's Eeyore thrives on one of life's greatest treasures, a treasure also celebrated by the character that Larry is based on. To Japanese players and to J-drama lovers, Larry's character design is a fairly obvious nod to that of Goro Inogashira, the protagonist of Kodoku no Gurume, a manga that follows salesman Goro Inogashira as he travels across Japan for work, breaking for a meal at a restaurant in each chapter. Goro is soft-spoken, serious, and looks battered by too many long days on the road. But Goro's on-the-road meals provide him with exactly what he needs. Pockets of time wherein he can relax his facade, let go of his work obligations, and simply enjoy the pleasure of eating. There is no absurd melodrama or dark plot twist lurking beneath the surface of Kodoku no Gurume. It is simply a story about eating. And in 2012, the manga was adapted into a hit TV drama. Its success was to be expected, as the appeal of the show is universal, because there is just nothing quite as peaceful, comforting, and satisfactory as a tasty, uninterrupted meal in solitude. When our worries melt away into delicious delicious flavors. The world beyond fades into the background, and our energy is restored bite by bite. It is the simplest of experiences, but one of life's most joyful, and an experience that delights the tired working men of both Solitary Gourmet and Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. Like Goro, Larry is tired and beaten down, and like Goro, Larry takes tremendous joy in the simplest of things. We see that joy when he treats us to dinner, and he can't stop from letting his poker face burst into an expression of absolute jubilation. In a game all about finding one's treasure, Larry's treasures are life's simple pleasures. As evident in Larry's desire to focus on what is simple rather than what is extreme, novel, weird, bizarre, or otherwise a shock to the senses, Larry is not one to seek pleasure from big dreams, Lamborghinis, or exciting adventures. Instead, he looks to life's simple pleasures to shine a light on even the darkest of days, which is every day in Larry's life. Because even if you have the most mundane or stressful job, and even if the voluminous hair alien is your boss, you can still pack every day with simple pleasures. This is an idea of value in the current era, wherein people have become obsessed with ideas that are complete poppycock in the pursuit of happiness. Instead of chasing exotic lifestyles, short-lived bursts of pleasure, algorithm dopamine, net cred, and a steady drip of illusions, there are more wholesome, more sustainable pathways to happiness. And one of the best is to embrace life's simple pleasures and be thankful for them. A tasty meal, a hot coffee, a walk in the woods, a laugh with a friend, a minute of meditation, a book in bed, a totally sick pull, a family barbecue, a sunbath, etc., etc. Life is tough. Working hard is a given, not an exception. Most of us are working hard at pretty normal or even pretty grueling jobs. And let's be honest, school is not always a lot of fun either. But regardless, there is just so much joy to be derived from focusing on the value of what we do, disconnecting from the shock factor machine, and, for instance, enjoying a tasty meal. Even while working 3 jobs to make alimony payments like our man Larry. So be true to your principles and the world that you are a part of. Ground yourself to what is simple and good. Savor the treasures of everyday life. Thank Larry for dropping the 3-rule bombshell for better living. And someone,
good night, Stone
please
Killer. Thanks for
get
coming
that
by.
man a cup of coffee.
Well, chat. We certainly got philosophical on that one. Absolutely philosophical. Yeah. Larry, I understand why Larry is considered the most popular character. It 100% makes perfect sense. It does.